I will give a talk which I never so far have given before, so it is not what you could call a rehearsal of what I've given in the past, and that is also already reflected in the title. And if you have a good memory, I mean, I invite you to remember the name of TAF. TAF is the new name for our compound Tenofovir, and is the prodrug of actually Tenofovir. Tenofovir was the compound which I discovered in collaboration with Dr. Holý, and I should say it is Dr. Holý who did the chemistry, and I did the biochemistry and the biology on this work, and that is how we made such a kind of what I would say liaison. So, and why we stayed as friends for almost half a century. Unfortunately, Dr. Holý died in 2012, and that was not, of course, foreseen, and that ended a collaboration that had started in 1976. I wished that collaboration would have lasted for much longer. It should have been, because we were very, very good mates, I mean, very good friends, and we, I would say, really liked each other. He was the real chemist, and I was the pseudo-chemist. So, but he wanted to be a medical doctor. He was a pseudo-medical doctor, and in that respect, we were really good colleagues together. So, trying to remember the name TAF, it will hopefully be the new key word for the next few years, until the compound will, of course, also run out of patent protection. I'm going to give this talk within a month or so in Romania, and that is the reason why I've indicated it here. You may not be interested in Romania. I was there in 1971. I've never been there since then, but I will be back there in just 1 month from now, and this is also the presentation I will give there in Romania. When I was there in the old days, I mean in 1971, I gave a talk on the mechanism of interferon production by synthetic polyribonucleotides. You may be happy to learn that I'm not going to give this kind of presentation here. This is really the beginning of my acquaintance with Holý, and if you would like to see how we looked like at that time, this is this baby here, and that's me. And this is Holý, and then you see here, and that's me. And then there are a few very important other nucleoside chemists present there. I will not indicate all of them, but or not any of them, except the pioneer of the nucleoside chemistry. That is John Moffat. Is, as far as I know, still alive, living in California, and the organizer of that meeting was Karl-Heinz Scheidt. He died in the meantime, and so it is the first time that I met with Dr. Holý, and that was in Göttingen, in Germany. There was even a man from Novosibirsk over there, present there. He was very critical to me, as he even did not believe that it would be possible for finding any chemical compounds that would be specific against a virus infection. Anyway, this was the start of our collaboration and it started in a Western country at a meeting where most of the people came from the West, except for Dr. Holý. There was also David Sugar, was there, coming from Warsaw in Poland, and all the others were all persons or chemists coming from the West. What was important in retrospect, I did not realize myself at that time that I was the only medical doctor in this company. I think that the chemists present there must have wondered what I was doing there. And apparently the organizer, Karl-Heinz Scheidt, had made a mistake in inviting me. He thought that I was a chemist. Otherwise he would probably not have invited me. But as it turned out, I mean, I understood the language of the chemistry quite well, and I've kept that tradition for all these years. Then the very first compound that Antonín Holý made, I mean synthesized with his own hands, was HPMPA. So I just use this as an example of how a compound was formed, and this compound is a phosphonate. You see the phosphor, and then you have the carbon, and the P is linked to the carbon and not directly to the oxygen. That makes a hell of a difference. If the oxygen would be here and the carbon over there, that phosphate group would be easily cleaved by water and with help of esterases, but even spontaneously it would be cleaved easily. But if you put a carbon in between, that phosphor is not cleaved anymore. And that is the trick in the very simple, and I would consider that as a simplification, it is the trick of all the compounds which were derived and received the title of phosphonate. I'm sure Dr. Holý himself would not agree with this explanation, but okay, he would allow it, and he would say, you poor medical doctor, it is a satisfying definition. He would disagree with me, as he always did, but he would accept it. He also disagreed with my choice of the abbreviation HPMPA. He said, that's a very awkward abbreviation, but nevertheless, he accepted it. And so this is the general, I would say, attitude of Dr. Holý, as he always had. I mean, very critical, to the point, but still accepting what these stupid medical doctors concocted. So this is the basic paper that we published, as you can see, in 1986. It is a classic paper now. I mean, it's you can see also the co-worker of Dr. Holý was Ivan Rosenberg, the third one here. And at that time, I had the co-worker from Japan. With me was Takashi Sakuma. And then what is most remarkable is this man, Madkal, obviously an Indian fellow, and he has remained my very good friend. He was the ophthalmologist, and you may wonder why he got this position of the last author, because this just happened a year after my boss, Professor De Zomer, had died, so he could not have participated in this undertaking, and I got a lot of help of Dr. Madkal, the ophthalmologist, to prove the potential of the compounds, and that was done with this first antiviral agent for infection in the eye. He was the one who showed this compound to be effective in the treatment of herpes virus infection in the eye of rabbits. And later on, we pursued also these compounds for the potential treatment of herpetic infections in the eye. Derived from HPMPA is PMPA, and PMPA became the compound of choice and has become my most important compound that I developed in collaboration with Dr. Holý. The difference with the previous compound is rather, what I would say, slight. It is only referring to a metal group in addition to the rest of the molecule. Now that makes this compound also to become enantiomeric, because you can have two isomers, one isomer with the metal group forwards, one isomer with the metal group backwards, and that is the reason why this is indicated by R. According to the Prelog rules, this should be R, and the enantiomeric form should be S, which is much less effective. So the real effective compound is Tenofovir, as we call it, hence the R isomerism. That compound was later on for the first time published in 1993 and referred to in antimicrobial agents and chemotherapy. And you still see Dr. Holý as the second author after the name of my first authorship was done by Balzarini, and I am, as the boss of the group, was indicated as the last author, or senior author, as we call it. The most important observation on this compound was actually not done by myself, but by a certain Tsai that you see here. And this was published in Science in 1995. I still remember that paper very well. It was published on the 17th of November in 1995. And I had announced this already to the TV station in Belgium. And I remember very well that they had invited me to give a talk on this discovery in 1995 on the Belgian TV. That was the day that I was teaching, it was a Friday, and on Fridays I'm always been teaching, and as I'm teaching here, you would probably believe me that when I'm saying that teaching is the priority in my life rather than science. And you can call that as, you know, not really be justified, but it is the case. I always liked to teach, and even in these early days, I mean, I told the TV journalist that, very sorry, I could not, you know, respond to them because I would have to go teaching in Kortrijk. Now, Kortrijk, you may not have heard of this place. I mean, is similar to České Budějovice in the Czech Republic. It's about 100 and so on kilometers from the center of the city, or center of the country, which in Belgium is Brussels, and also it is Leuven, located very closely to Brussels, and whereas Kortrijk is really in the far west of Belgium. Like České Budějovice is in the far south of the Czech Republic. It's, I no, a little bit exaggerated, but it is a similar situation. So when I told the TV journalist that I had to teach there, I thought that I would have scared off, but that was not the case, because they said, well, if that is, you know, the situation, then we are coming to Kortrijk, and we will take the whole, let's say, report in front of the students. You can imagine that the 70+ students that were waiting for me there enjoyed themselves, I mean, very much, and to be figuring on the TV, and their parents, I mean, you know, certainly, you know, were amazed to see their pupils, I mean, their sons and daughters appearing on the Belgian TV. And I was the actor. And I remember that I announced that we had discovered the compound that could prevent even HIV infection. People thought that I was just kidding. And that is what I remember. I mean, I received some applause too, but I received also a lot of criticism. Criticism being that I was over enthusiastic. And the journalist, even that during the TV broadcasting, asked me a question he had not predicted. He asked, if I understood correctly, he said, you have discovered the morning after pill against HIV infection. I did not understand very well what he meant by that. So my answer, and I could not, of course, ask for any thinking, because I had to respond immediately, since the camera was running. It was for a prime time edition in the evening, so I had to respond, yes, maybe this is right, but it is not a pill yet. This was in 1995, that's the reason why I mention it here, and it was in 2012 that that prediction was finally fulfilled. In 2012, on the 16th of July, and the reason that I know this so well is that it is also the day that Antonín Holý died. So the compound was approved for the prevention of HIV infection. So what I had said on TV so many years before then was finally fulfilled. But I could not, of course, have foreseen this at that time. I show here a picture of that paper. I mean, this is, at first glance, it may be a little bit complicated, but it is in fact not complicated. What you see here are the electrophoretic patterns for 10 monkeys. This was not done in humans, because this was done in monkeys with the, not with HIV, but with the simian counterpart of HIV, so that is SIV. And here you will see in 10 monkeys the pattern of the viral proteins, and you can see that all of them in the 10 monkeys showed a very clear profile of the presence of the viral proteins. And then you see 5 monkeys here, 1 to 5, where all these profiles are totally blank. So this is really a difference between 100% and 0%. Black and white. And this is maybe a good advice for the students here. When they run experiments, try to have results that are like black and white. And then there is no discussion. I think when you see pictures like this, there will be no discussion that this is 10 monkeys. You have viral proteins present, whereas in these 5 monkeys, you have absolutely no viral protein. So the reason is very simple. The compound, in this case Tenofovir, completely blocked the infection. So it was a black and white result here. And that is one of the pictures I've kept as a kind of a memory and also as an example of how our first results in this times indicated a complete protection. Again, I can be proud of this, and I'm not biased because I was not an author of this paper. So it's an experiment that was done in the Seattle, Washington state in the US. So a picture of Dr. Holý. This is how Holý looked like in his, let's say, very good days. I mean, that was in '96. Ik werde nichts ohne De Clercq, sagt well, you can read it yourself. And fügt mit einem schweigen Augenzwinkern hinzu, De Clercq wäre aber auch nichts ohne mich. And then the journalist from the Spiegel, this appeared in the Spiegel, asked, and what is Gilead doing? Gilead is the pharmaceutical company that put the compound later on the market. And he said that sie lieferten das Sahnehäubchen. That means actually the whipping cream. So daarvoor had de Demag drei berechtigten geistige vatten. So Holý himself said that it was not only him, also me, but in addition he referred to a third person. And here you see the three persons together. I mean, this was in '95, so 1995 was a crucial year, as you can see, and here you see Holý and myself, and then here the third person involved, that is at that time the boss of Gilead Sciences. Also a chemist, a real chemist, not a pseudo-chemist like me, but a real chemist who, his name is John Martin, who became the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer of Gilead Sciences. That gave me inspiration to call the three of us the Holy Trinity. I got that idea, I'm very proud that I got the idea, by seeing the real Holy Trinity monument in Olomouc. Holý brought me once over to Olomouc, and I gave a talk at that time, and I was very much impressed when I saw this monument at the square, I mean, on the Grand Place in Olomouc. And I asked Holý what this monument meant, and he said, that is the Holy Trinity. I said, that's interesting to know. And I got the immediate reflection of said, let's call, or a combination of Holý, John Martin and myself, the Holy Trinity. So I got that idea in Olomouc. And so here you have an example of a presentation of the Holy Trinity. At this time you see Tony here in the middle. That was in 2003, where we were given a medal or a plaque. You can see the plaque here of recognition that by John Martin. So we were with the three of us already recognized, and that was done during a meeting at Gilead Sciences. Even a picture, and I'm sure that everybody here will recognize the background. This is České Budějovice, and here the Holy Trinity were together in the 4th of June 2009, where when Tony Holý and myself were awarded the honorary degree at the university here. So I would like to stress this point, that the Holy Trinity consists of three partnerships, or partnership of three people. And Antonín Holý is the chemist, it's the most important point. And then, I would say you need a little help of the chemist, and that is done by the biologist. And then it is important to have the industrialist, because the chemist can make the best compounds in the world. If these compounds remain on the shelf and are not being evaluated for their potential activity, it is meaningless, and all the efforts of the chemists are in vain. So you need somebody, and I'm representing here those that evaluate the biological activity of these compounds, and that is needed then to make the contact with industry, to pursue the development of the compound as to the application in the treatment of diseases in humans. The chemist can make the compounds, the biologist can evaluate them. If there is no further interaction, if there is no further action, the efforts will stop there. You need a person who will bring these compounds to life, that means to the benefit of mankind. Or if it is in veterinarian medicine, you can also extend that to animals. But in the first place, we have to go to potential application in human medicine, and eventually, if needed, perhaps also in veterinarian medicine. So that brings me to the three and the importance of the three together. How our collaboration between Holý and myself were further than covered by René de Clercq, previous ambassador of the Belgian kingdom in the Czech Republic. She became at a certain time very much interested in there, and she pursued this in a book which is also partly covering the whole history of the East-West problem between the Czechoslovak at that time and the west side, and then also at the west side were the Americans. And this is all covered in this book, and also Libor has already made quite a description on this. So the compound that we, for all these years, have developed has been named Viriat, and this compound Viriat, as you can see here, that was the package, is actually the Tenofovir linked to two ester linkages. That is to make this compound orally bioavailable. And Tenofovir as such is not very well absorbed orally. So to make the absorption better, you have to, I would say, make a kind of emballage, cadeau. That means you have to wrap it into a sort of a package which makes this compound better soluble and or let's say absorbable through the intestine. So this compound is the one that has been used for all these years under the name of Tenofovir disoproxyl fumarate. Practical problem: this compound or this package compound has run out of protection. It is more than 20 years, and so as you probably know, patents will expire after 20 years. That for our compound was 2017. We are already in 2018, so this has also afflicted the situation for this compound, which we give the name of Tenofovir disoproxyl fumarate. So Tenofovir disoproxyl fumarate is what you could call the prodrug, or the orally absorbable drug of Tenofovir. This was all covered by the patent, but that patent has now expired, so we had to change our policy and gone to a new strategy. Before we did so, we further described Truvada. And Truvada is the formulation which has been used for the prevention of HIV infection. So far, we knew about treatment, but as I said, in 2012, we got the approval of using Truvada for the prevention of HIV infection. It took 4 more years before this was done in the US. It took 4 more years before the EU, it's always, taking much more time, also approved this, but finally this compound last year was also approved for the prevention of HIV infection in the European Union, including Czech Republic. And that is the name Truvada. So whenever you see the name Truvada, you will maybe think about me, and not only about me, but especially about Holý. And so we were part of this game, because in Truvada we have, in the first place, we have Tenofovir, but also another compound which has been combined with Tenofovir, and that is referred to as minus FTC or emtricitabine. It's a regular nucleoside analog that makes only Truvada to be more effective. And that is a combination which has been approved now worldwide for the prevention of HIV infection. That makes a hell of a difference, because prevention means that you can take this compound, let's say in the morning, and will protect you not during the day against any infection, by any route of infection, and actually you should have to use it daily to be absolutely sure. But I can tell you that even if you forget it once, do not worry, you just take it the next day again. Because the mode of action of Tenofovir is extended over a few days even. But if you really want to be sure, you have to take it daily. But if you do not do this routine, I would say do not panic, just take it the next day again. And this is, at this moment, I would even say the best way to prevent HIV infection. And that gives me the opportunity to immediately refer to a vaccine. There is absolutely no vaccine coming for HIV infections, and I would make a very strong statement by saying I will, in my life, never see a vaccine. And I think that I will not even tell you that you would ever see a vaccination against HIV in your life. It's a strong point, I know, but you see, I am convinced of it. So that means that to prevent, to be absolutely sure that you can prevent HIV, that then we can find our resource to a chemical compound. And that would make Tony to stay alive. I mean, I'm referring to Antonín Holý for even many more years to come. So the second very important application is for the use of Tenofovir in combination, and this has been the case for instance, Atripla. Atripla has been used as a triple combination together with Tenofovir and emtricitabine and finally efavirenz. So Atripla was approved in 2006. I remember because that was around the middle of July, and that was also the time that I was in Prague and also visited Olomouc when this happened. Another combination is of Tenofovir with, again, with emtricitabine and rilpivirine. Rilpivirine is also the result of a collaboration that I set up together with Paul Janssen, our local hero in the pharmaceutical sector. Janssen has been the most, let's say, productive person in the world in the development of compounds effective against any diseases. And through our collaboration, we developed this compound, rilpivirine. So I was particularly gratified when I saw rilpivirine to be combined with Tenofovir, because to some extent these were two of my compounds coming together in the same package. And finally, the combination of 4 compounds together got the name of Stribild, and that were Tenofovir, again Tenofovir, with emtricitabine, and then a compound effective at the level of the integrase, that is alpha-tegravir, and cobicistat, which is a compound to enhance the activity of alpha-tegravir. And then came TAF. TAF was actually concocted at Gilead Sciences. That's the reason why it has been referred to as GS7340. And that compound was described around, I would say 2005. And the compound was immediately proven to be more effective than Tenofovir itself, because it was specifically taken up by the lymphocytes, and these are the cells that are responsible for the replication of HIV. The fact is that you may ask at this stage, how come I was still, let's say, benefiting from the fact that this compound was shown to be effective? That is because when we originally signed the agreement with Gilead, it was also covered that instead of getting a down payment, we should have the rights for any compounds derived from Tenofovir that even were synthesized at Gilead itself. And that is the reason why we are still benefiting from the returns from this type of compounds. So TAF has now become the new name for the Tenofovir compound. The behavior of TAF is that the basic compound, the S7340, is first relieved from its group here, which is done both at the site of the lymphocytes, the PBMCs, or the peripheral blood mononuclear cells, and the liver cells. And that is then removing part of the prodrug. The rest of the molecule is then converted to tenofovir, and then tenofovir is further phosphorylated once and even a second time. So the final inhibitory compound is the same as for tenofovir itself. Only you have to remove the package that is covering tenofovir first, and that is done in 2 steps, and then the molecule will act as the normal tenofovir. I would like to stress another point, and that brings us TAF. TAF is the compound which is used for HIV infections. That is one part, but what is equally important is for HBV infections. So hepatitis B is behaving very much similar to HIV. So not hepatitis C, that's a totally different virus, and I will not cover this virus, but hepatitis B is behaving in a certain extent similarly to an HIV infection. This is a totally different matter here, but in the way of transmission, there are a lot of similarities between HIV, the HIV that you're very well aware of, and also HBV. It's all through the blood, it's through blood transfusion, it's through sex, and also from mother to child as a consequence of pregnancy. And so again, HIV and HBV behave very much in the same way. So it is, of course, very important to know that exactly the same compound, in this case TAF, could be used for both infections. So the commercial name under which TAF has been launched for the treatment of hepatitis B infection is Vemlidy. This is a new development that dates from just a few months ago, and that is done the key compound and the dose of 25 milligrams. It can be used for the treatment of HIV infections, but also equally well for the treatment of hepatitis B. So there are several formulations and commercial formulations for TAF. Vemlidy is the compound which I show you. Then you have Descovy when it is used again in combination with minus FTC. So this is again TAF plus the emtricitabine, and you can further extend it to combination with rilpivirine, the Janssen compound, and that is then called Odefsey. All these names are all new names. You never heard of this before. These are all of the last year. So I am quite, let's say, up to date when I'm giving you all these names. And then you can extend it to a combination with 4 compounds, and that is referred to as Genvoya. Genvoya is a combination of 4 compounds. Again, tenofovir is part of it, but in addition to tenofovir, you also have 3 other compounds, being emtricitabine, then elfitregravir, and cobicistat. I've indicated that all the approvals have dated from just the last year or 2, always first in the US, and then with some delay in the EU, and the rest of the world will follow. Japan was a little bit earlier than the EU when it came to approval of Femlidi for the treatment of hepatitis B. So the US were always the first, and then followed Japan, and then the EU. And I've indicated also for Odefsey. So this is all very recent information dating from 2016. And Descovy also was 2016. So what we are waiting for at this moment is what is going to happen with the new edition for the prophylaxis of HIV infection. As I already told you, Truvada has been approved for the prophylaxis of HIV infections in the US on the 16th of July, and that was in 2012. It has taken 4 years further for the EU approval, so they were much slower. Now the question is, will they ever approve Descovy? Descovy is what you could call the new Truvada. Will they ever approve it? And I hope so, but so far it has not been done, so we have still to wait for it. So this is a question for the future. So finally, I would like to end up this presentation by showing my home institution, the place where all this work was done. And this is a picture of the old institute. It still exists now, but it is in a ruin. And so maybe if you would like to have an updated picture, please be hurried, because within a few months or years the building may have disappeared completely.
Really?
Nobody knows, and as it is normally the case in Leuven, we do not care. So nobody knows and nobody cares. And so, but this is how the building looked like, and this is the place where all this work was done. I show it as, it is a historical picture, and always referring to the fact that, as you can see, the building is located at the side of a river. In the world, you know of very important universities like Cambridge. So Cambridge thanks its name to the fact that it is located at the river. In this case, is the river Cam, from where the name Cambridge is derived. We also have a river. And so, although nobody knows about it, our institute is also, our old institute was also located at the river. Not a romantic river, it's the river Deiler. Nobody knows, nobody cares. This is how the new institute looks like. It is more modern and, like I would say, certainly not as romantic as it looked like in the old building. I was used to mention this as, a picture of my laboratory, but I'm sure nobody is going to believe this. So, but anyway, if you don't believe it, you're okay, all right. I mean, this is how the City Hall looks like. And this is still an authentic picture. The City Hall still looks like this. It was built in several versions. The original building dates from the years 1100, but then it was rebuilt, or not rebuilt, but redecorated in 1400, and that is still, as it was at that time constructed. So it's a beautiful city hall, but now it is quite far. This is in the real center of the city. The new Rega Institute that you see here, I mean, is outside the center. It is part of the complex of the hospital, and so it has lost its, what I would say, romantic connections. So, but it is the building how it, you know, is still available, and I wish my laboratory would have been located there, but it's not there. It is still used for weddings. If you would have a romantic wedding, you could have it at this kind of building. For a divorce, it is not used. And picture of Mr. Rega, because people may wonder where is the name Rega coming from. This is not from an abbreviation of some kind of royal evaluation of whatever you could concoct yourself. But there was, in the 18th century, a Mr. Rega. So this is a family name, and this is the picture of Mr. Rega as it was reconstructed by my good friend, the artist, Gerard Thijs. And the origin, real painting of Mr. Rega existed at our university, and it was destroyed in the First World War. As you probably know, we received some visitors from the East in the First World War, and these visitors were not very friendly. They burned the whole city, including the picture of Mr. Rega. They did the same thing in the Second World War as well. But let's say they stopped already, they got experience in the First World War. And so they came then, you know, to do the same operation again in the Second World War. But Mr. Rega was reconstructed by my good friend, and so it looks like more like Bach, but apparently it was Mr. Rega, Joseph-Henri Rega, who lived around the year 1730. I have a complete story of his, you know, life. He was apparently the rector also at that time of the university. He was a chemist, obviously, and in addition he was also an architect and also a medical doctor, and had many talents apparently. So it's the reason why his name was selected for giving the name for the institute. So he made also, I'm referring now to Gerard Thijs, the artist. He made a picture of Professor De Zomer. So De Zomer was my tutor, my mentor, and he was also the one responsible for getting me into research. I mean, apparently he died already in 1985, so he never, you know, seen the results of my work on the phosphonate, because he had died before then. But I'm very, let's say, honored to dedicate my work that I did in that respect to him, because he determined my whole career, actually. And so finally, the symbol of the university, this is what is referred to as a seat of wisdom, the Sedes Sapientiae. So the seat of wisdom means the Holy Virgin, and with the child here. And as you see, the child is coming like this. So that is to thank you for your attention. We should give applause to them.